Welcome back to another episode of the Cameras and Coffee podcast. Today I'm sitting here with Kelly Meyer from Two Birds Media LLC and Michelle Smigelski from Michelle Kristine Photography. And we are talking all unfiltered, raw content here, part two from the first episode I did with Michelle. Welcome, ladies. This is going to be probably a hot mess because the beginning recording didn't record and now we are struggling to actually get to the content.
We are
So,
doing this. We are doing it.
Yes.
so welcome to the chaos. I love it though. I love this friendship. It is one of my favorite things. We have a text thread we do every single day, whether it be late at night, early in the morning. For some of us, Kelly is usually late to the party because we drop kids off at school, Michelle and I, and then we are up in the morning. And so,
And my husband works night shift, so I end up staying up later to spend some time with him on his days off. So
yes. So, yeah. Kelly's usually trying to play catch up from our conversation every day. And
I'll get like 36 messages.
yes, some of the fun things. But let's kind of talk about the type of photography we do. But first, I will mention Michelle did an interview with me last season. We talked about motherhood. Then she did a part one. So we are on part two. So if you want to hear Michelle and my conversation, you can go to part one. We're continuing that. We have talked about the three of us being together, and we knew it would be a shit show. So welcome to the party, guys. You get to listen in. This is real conversation with us, and I am so happy you're here. So let's start with Kelly. Kelly, talk about what you primarily photograph and all the things.
So I do primarily wedding photography. I also do some wedding videography, but I'm kind of moving away from that a little bit, I think. And I do a little bit of everything else. Like I kind of dabble a little bit because I kind of enjoy spicing things up or trying something new. But weddings are, my main income. I just was talking to you guys yesterday about how how I'm being hired to do birth photography, and I'm really excited about it because it's something I've wanted to do for a while. So that's, kind of my new interesting session that I'll have this year. And I don't know, I kind of do a little bit of everything because I like to stretch my wings a little and kind of keep practicing or challenging myself. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with it. But yeah, weddings are my main.
And animals are definitely her
Yeah,
thing
my
she loves to
favorite.
do. Um, I was in the last recording that didn't capture. We were talking about how when she did our family photos for Christmas this past year, my husband was like, "What? She has chickens? Like, I just don't see it." Um, Kelly, show everyone your mug because
Oh
it's
yes,
the best.
my mug that my lovely sister-in-law got me. Because my girls
Yes.
make me breakfast, and it's got little chickens,
Oh my gosh, I love it.
some little eggs. Yeah, yeah.
Which honestly, Two Birds Media, birds come in any shape or size for you. I love it. But she
Yes.
loves her dogs. Her dogs are her babies, her children. Um, so if you have dogs you want photographed, she is the go-to that I
Mhm.
send everybody to. But Michelle, tell us what it is you primarily photograph and where you're passionate.
So I photograph. I have corporate events. So there's one corporation that I do a lot of events for, and then I also do school portraits, like fine art, artistic portraits. So just like your classic portrait, trying to include personality. Definitely not like your typical school portrait where like the
No.
cheesy
Blech.
smiles. Yeah.
Yes. They're
So those are my
beautiful.
two. Thank you. Those are my two main things. And I like if I do families, I try to tend to go more towards lifestyle and documentary.
Mm,
I'm not very into poses,
yeah.
but yeah. So
You
that's
have
me.
that documentary eye that I absolutely love. Like
Very
there's
much so.
I've talked about before and you do a 365. We talked about this in the last episode, I believe.
Yeah.
About how you do photos every day or try to continually and there's something for me I'm just like insecure about like I just don't look at things like that. And so there's things where I'm like comparing to yours, and that's why I'm like, I can't do it. And you're like, encourage me to do the P52. So I'm trying. I'm trying
You
to do
should.
one a week. I'm working
I
on it.
I
But
follow a bunch of people who do 365s and they've done them for like 10 years and their photos are amazing. And like I look at theirs and envy and hope that mine end up like them. But like, I mean, I live in suburbia, so there's only so much I can like include. So I try to make it fun and I try to be interesting and
it
um,
stretches you, I feel like,
it does.
because anyone can Kelly and I've talked about this for weddings. Anyone can shoot things that are beautiful, but when you
Mhm.
have to elevate them to look better than it really is, that is like a major difference and really stretches you and really shows you who you are as a creative. So I feel like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before where it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, makes a huge
Yes.
difference. But
And
so,
your photos are always really, I don't know, they're really poignant, and I
mm,
really
yeah,
enjoy the 365 that you do.
Well,
yeah.
my whole point is hopefully it'll carry into like my sessions in that I'm not like taking a million pictures, I'm taking the ones that matter.
Mm.
So it's not always like the quantity, it's the quality. Like you want to get that moment. Like sometimes it's the moment before, sometimes it's the moment after, and sometimes it's the moment in the middle. But like to be able to figure out which moment is the most important is
Mm.
kind of, I feel like, our job.
Yeah.
I love that because I strive to be like that, but I'm still Kelly knows this because she hates it. But I am an
Overshoot.
Whatever you think, Sarah.
overshooter. Kelly, tell them what you said to me the other day when you delivered a gallery and you were like, Kara.
Well, let me just start by saying that when I shoot a wedding with my typical second shooter, we both together produce about 2,500 to 3,000 if it's a long day, right? Together. That's together. And then Kara alone for this one wedding she did with me, just by herself, gave me 5,000 photos to cull. And so I had to spend a lot of time doing that. And I delivered 1,800 photos in their gallery when I typically deliver like anywhere from 950 to like 1,200, And it was a lot. It was the most I think I've ever delivered
Well,
from
and
weddings.
it's 2 cameras because I have a different lens on each camera, so a lot of
Yes.
times I'm taking the same shot with multiple lenses.
Yeah.
So
That and once I got 2 cameras, I found my shutter count going up so much, and I was like, "I have
Mhm.
to figure out." That's where I'm trying to figure out, okay, when I'm placed here, which lens, and sometimes you take both because you want
Yeah.
2, it gives 2 different feels. But yes, then it's double the work.
Yes.
See, it's
Yeah.
funny because I delivered like, I called things down and I was like, "Only 1,000 from this wedding?" And but it was a shorter day, so it was only 8 hours, and it was only well, I had an assistant, but there was no bridal party. So that's where I, like, had to say, "Oh, yeah," because I would probably add another 500 on had there been a bridal party. Because usually I deliver anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 for a wedding day, but, yeah, I was just,
Michelle,
like, listening to Kelly in my head.
I got 1,500 photos back from my wedding, and my wedding was like, I think, a really short one. It was a pretty small
Yeah,
group.
but who shot it?
That's true.
Tell everyone who shot your wedding, Kelly.
Well,
Originally, Michelle is shooting this wedding, right?
Yes.
yeah, it was originally
Yeah.
Michelle, and then I had to change my wedding date because I got two separate venues screwed up on me. One of them just went out of business, and the other one just completely ghosted me like a week prior to my wedding. And so I had to very last minute figure out what I was going to do. I lost two separate deposits, although neither one of
Oh,
them were very big. And so I had to like just make a quick decision and go with an available date. And so it ended up being Michelle's son's birthday. And so she was able to shoot like a portion of it, like about half of the day. And then Kara took over, the last half of the day. But I still love all of my wedding photos. So.
this is like our meeting point too. Like, I think you helped me with
Yeah.
something like that week before, and I was like, this is our wedding week. It was like short video, something that Michelle was going to help me with, and she was like, I'm going to have Kelly help you. And then I met you on your wedding day, and ever
Yeah.
since, you just haven't been able to get rid of me.
Me like glue.
She's like gum on the bottom of your shoe. You just can't get it.
I love it. Oh, we were just saying how we are like the sisters. Like Michelle is the oldest. I'm like the middle, and Kelly is like the young sister. And we all, I think there's like 5 years between each of us when we do it that way. Like, so
Mhm.
yeah, it's just that relationship where I just love it. um, but yeah, we kind of go into this, but they're the ones I'm always talking to throughout the year where I'm just like, keep me from doing this. And one of those things is mini sessions
Uh,
because I primarily shoot weddings and seniors, mostly weddings, but there like every year in the fall, I'm like, don't allow me to do mini sessions next year. If I start talking about it, talk me off that ledge. Like I need to not do it. And so we kind of go through that. And a lot of that is the fact that it's always during our busiest season. Like
Well,
Christmas
and
is our like winding down time, but then it's in the fall. Um, kind of going
mini
there. But
sessions are so popular right now because you can get like it's just the thing, right? Everyone wants everything quick, short, fast. So they're a huge thing. So I think we've all done them for many years. But I think like we were talking earlier is that there's such a short time period, you can't form that relationship and that bond to really
yeah,
capture at least how I think all of us photograph, which is a little bit more lifestyle-ish. You can't capture that in 15 minutes, like, because
no.
it's literally, hey, nice to meet you, or hey, nice to see you again. Let's get you posed here, here, here. Okay, see you later. And then the next person comes in. And you have to think it's taxing on the body. They're long days because we're back to back. And most of the time we don't really, it may be 5 minutes scheduled between each person,
yeah.
sometimes 10.
Well, even it's less because if you end up doing it in a studio,
Yes.
you're paying for all of the time that you're
Ugh,
there. So
yeah,
time
Yes.
is literally money at that point. And mini sessions cost less. And so if you aren't, managing that cash
Yeah.
flow well, it's like mini sessions are not worth it. But
Well,
if
no,
you
and
do it right, sometimes they are. Just depends.
yeah,
And the other thing is the editing. It piles up very quickly because when you take 10 family sets of families in one day, everyone wants them so quickly, which is understandable. And this is the day and age we live in. Like that's just really what it is. But it does take time to cull through them. It does take time to edit them, upload them into galleries, and then send them out.
yeah.
So when you pile that on top of busy season of weddings, busy season of school portraits, um, it's a toll on us more than anything else.
Mhm.
Um, at least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Michelle and I did one 2 years ago together in the
Yes,
fall,
it
and then it ended up
was.
raining, and we rented some
Remember?
couch, and I'm like, "Thank goodness I had plastic to, like, throw over it." But then we're
Yes.
like, "Do we reschedule these? Do we just wait it out? Like, what do we do? They're all back to back." Like, I'm, like, running
Yes.
from one park to another where there's, like, a covered area, and then Michelle's like, "They let up. We're okay now." And I'm just
It
like,
was.
because we don't have time to reschedule these. It's like the busiest time of
No.
year. And for some reason, we get the most rain during that time here in Michigan, which is super frustrating. And I think that's the biggest reason why I'm like, don't let me do mini sessions because I don't have time to reschedule these if something happens. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
I know.
don't let
I
me
did
do
some
them.
I did like what I call petite sessions. They're a little longer in the spring, in the no, in the summer. And those were a blast. They were still a lot of work. They were still taxing on the body and a lot of editing, but I didn't have like the backlog of everything else. And I
Mhm.
think families loved it because the weather was great. Um, there was more time, right? Because it stays lighter later. So after work, parents could get home, get
Yeah.
ready, and then get there. So if I do anything, it would be in the summer, but I even Christmas, my Christmas ones, the day 2 years ago I had them, it was a ice and snowstorm and it took everyone
Yeah.
forever. And like Kelly said, it was in a studio. So I was paying for it no matter what. So if I
Yeah.
canceled them, I was already out the hundreds of dollars, but then I would have to reschedule them
Hmm.
plus book. So it's a hard balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
For
super
sure.
frustrating. I don't think people like photographers know this, but like, clients don't understand this, and then they think, "Oh, you just made a chunk of change in this small amount of time," and it's like, "Okay, well, you don't realize how much time is spent
Yeah.
behind my computer and organizing and, like, promoting and then
Mhm.
trying to take time to get all of this situated and communicate with everyone." It's just like you're wearing all these hats in the
Yeah.
behind the scenes and
Yeah.
then also trying to be creative, and it's hard to be creative when you're limited on time. And you're like, I know the shots I gotta get because mom wants a picture with each kid or wants all the kids and the parents. And then you get kids who need a little extra time. And oh, yeah, so many,
It really
so many
reduces that
things.
ability to
Yeah.
it really reduces that, like, the ability to be, like, more organic with what you're doing,
Yeah.
and I think along with that, sometimes it can be a little less authentic anyway, because it's like you're forcing yourself to immediately fit a family you may not have like a super close relationship with into a bunch of preset poses, which can be really limiting.
Mhm.
But I mean, it can be like if that's exactly what they want and that's exactly what they're looking for, then that's perfect. But if
Yeah.
like for me, all my whole style is built around like the in between more organic moments with a lot of movement. There's not a lot of posing, there's more prompting.
Yeah.
Like it can be not the same as like my normal style. And so if you don't like communicate that well prior to doing the session, it can be like misleading, quote unquote misleading, because people are like, well, that's not, that doesn't look the same as your others. Well, of course not, because with those people, I had 2 hours, like we had two
Yeah.
phone calls prior. I got to know them. So it really does depend, but yeah, Kara, don't do mini sessions. No, I'm just kidding.
I have it all over my stuff for next year. Don't do mini sessions. And honestly, like I'm booking something with you in October. I have stuff with Michelle and because we all work together and all these different things. And I'm like, I don't have time. Like, Kara, don't
Yeah.
even think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I am going to run myself ragged. I literally was like, I just booked a wedding and now I have 4 wedding weekends in a row. I don't do double headers. I know, Kelly, I know you have,
Oh my
but
god, I did a
I
triple
can't do
header
it.
last year.
Ugh, yuck.
Ain't never doing that again. Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh. My
Like
body
that
just
was
can't handle it.
awful. It was awful.
I might be able to do one with like a day in between so that I can relax in between. It's just a lot of it is I'm like that extrovert introvert. So like I energize by being alone and resting and literally like because you girls always think I'm working all the time, but literally I'm taking breaks between things and coming back to it later where you're like, "Do you ever stop?" And I'm like, "If
No,
you
because you're
only knew
always
how much I didn't
doing
do between."
how.
You you always are like, hey, look at what I just learned. And you spew off all this stuff. And my blog still isn't even up. And you're like, I'm like, the next thing. And I'm like, okay.
Carol literally creates like my blog layouts for me, and I just go in and type the things. Like I just write the blog. And that's ideal for me because I love to write, but like the whole
Mhm.
idea of like getting fiddly with like the intricacies of like putting all of it together is just
And that is
so
totally
annoying.
my jam. I'm all about that curation, like putting something together, but writing content is not my thing. Like I'm horrible at writing content. That's why we're like, we should do this together. Like,
Yes, and then do it for me because I just want to be behind the camera at all times.
oh my gosh, this could be our business, guys. Our one-off
Yeah.
business together as our
Sorry.
collective. I
Oh my
love it.
gosh.
Okay, let's talk about the most controversial thing between the three of us: the crop debate.
Oh my gosh.
I'm ready.
Y'all know my feelings. It's like the Oxford
Oh,
comma, but it's fine.
I know both of your feelings and I feel like I break them all. So
So, Kelly, tell us where you're coming from and why you photograph a certain way, and I will talk about mine, and then Michelle can comment on both.
So I come from a film and video background. I have a degree in film and video, so like, moving pictures and stuff. And so
moving
really way
pictures. What
ahead
are
of
you, a
me.
Moving
boomer?
motion pictures.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure you knew what I was talking about, so I had to explain. Also, it smells like something might be on fire in my house, so
Are you having a stroke?
yeah, we'll be
I
fine.
hope not.
No, but my dad might be downstairs.
Oh my gosh.
Cut that bit out. Um, so I come from a film and video background, moving pictures. So when
Boomer.
you shoot, shut up. When you shoot those, you have to have more space because you don't have as much leeway for editing as you do with a photo. And so I always just sort of, and plus my brain just kind of sees things that way. Like I see kind of everything in like wide shot. And so when I am photographing, I give a lot of space around whatever my subject is, because I used to do a lot of like creative crops for people. Like I do like really long skinny photos. I do like a square photo, just because I wanted to give them some variety in whatever use they were putting it to. But I do a lot less of that now. I do like a more like, your standard crop that's like consistent with what the camera
I
did.
have
Actually,
noticed
because
that
of,
changing with you. That
huh?
has been changing a little bit with you. I've noticed.
Because you talked to me about it. Both of you actually mentioned it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should quit doing the creative crops. I still do one or two in a gallery, but like for the most part, I don't do that anymore. But I prefer to really adhere to the like the
Rule of
grid,
thirds.
like the rule of thirds. And
Yeah.
so I give people headspace. Like this would be how I'm framed in my thing. This would be how I'd crop a photo. Whereas like other people do it like this, or
I
like
do
this,
notice
and
you
I'm like,
more. I do
no.
notice more where you like have like a lot of headspace. And so I always joke with you about the headspace because and Michelle, I always laugh because what did you send us the other day where you were asking us about a photo and I was like, too much headspace or whatever, but Kelly would love it because she loves her headspace. And then you sent us one and what did you say? Do you
I don't
remember?
know. What did I say?
You were like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, check this one out." And you were like, "It's like photo porn because you guys love the
Oh my
crop."
gosh.
I was like,
Yes.
"Oh my
Because
gosh."
I didn't crop anyone's feet off and I had a lot of
Oh,
headspace. And I
yeah,
was like,
because I'm all about leaving enough space between the feet and the bottom of the photo.
Yeah, that too.
And so, like and Kelly's always about the headspace. So when you did the both, you said that, you were like, "It's like photo porn for both of you."
I try to do both as well. It
It
is my
was so
pet
funny.
peeve when people do like they'll do a photo and like you can tell they've adjusted the like vertical or the horizontal. So
Oh,
like the
yeah.
person's a little bit stretched and then their feet at the bottom are like this, and then they have this much space between the edge of the photo and their toes.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, if they're going to get that printed on a canvas or something,
Yeah.
where are their toes are going to legs going to go? Michelle has a unique experience with that where somebody they like did a wrap canvas and the legs of the person just like
they were
spread
like
over the edge.
that big. They were huge. And I remember that. I literally called up the client and I was like, I rightfully cannot give this to you. I need to Photoshop it and I need to make this right. And they were grateful for that. Like I'm always the first one to say that. But I just threw that one out. So like I can't even give this to them like as like an extra because it was so their legs were normal and then they were like this much longer wrapped around. It was awful.
Was
It
it
was
the
like,
was it the printer
mm,
that did that though? It wasn't
Yes.
like yeah, it wasn't like how you took it, it wasn't whatever,
No,
like,
because they
they
stretch it.
stretched it, yeah,
They
over the
stretched
edge.
it. And they're
Yeah,
like, "Well, it looks normal when you hang it on the wall." And I was like, "It doesn't
that's
look
not what
normal ever." Like,
no.
so
if that's the
there was
case, just do, like, regular color around the edge, don't
yeah,
wrap like, pull
it
the
was.
that's
But
so funny.
I think I probably drive the both of you nuts because I like to get in as close as I can, and I'm chopping everything I can. I'm chopping like I try not to chop like right here or right there or like,
Oh, yeah.
but like I try not to chop it like the limbs and stuff like that. But you guys
I
know
am
that,
a take the photo post-process crop. So like I never like my thought is I never want to cut where there's joints. So like if there's an elbow or like an
yeah,
ankle or a knee, I will crop just a little bit higher than a knee. I won't
yeah,
crop like just below it and I won't crop like just at the ankle. I will go like to the shin. Um and then if there's like a groom, if you're watching the YouTube version of this, I will crop in like right at their head so there's no headspace. And a lot of times I do that because I get a lot of older couples and sometimes the guys have like a receding hairline or something like that. And I know that's going to be like a very insecure thing. And so sometimes I'm like, I'm going to bring it down a little bit and then you can't even see it so that they feel confident and like don't worry about like that part of their head. Because sometimes I'm having them like nuzzle in to like a bride or their fiance or whatever, and I don't want that to be like the primary focus. And it also is like where your eye goes. So I'm like, if I'm like cropping there, your eye is going to go like at an angle, and a lot of it is like the composition of it too. And I know, Michelle, you're like a compose in camera. I'm like a compose sometimes post processing, depending on like specifics. Like I try to do in camera too. But yeah.
Like my goal is like by the time I die, like my like photos in camera are literally just going to be like downloaded onto my computer, like just sharpen them and like pop the color a little and then get them out. Like that is my end goal, to
That is
be
my goal
like,
too, like to get better in camera, so I'm not doing a lot of post processing.
yeah.
I mean, that's everyone's goal, right? I would hope so.
Yeah, it should.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's why I
Yeah.
do like the 365. I'm really more about intention. I'm really trying to get you guys know my word, intention, intentionality. Like there's got to be
Is that your
intention behind
2024
everything.
word?
It's my forever world. I mean, since I've known you guys, that's all I'm like, intention, intention.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
I
I
love
I do I do a little of both. I enjoy like my favorite lens right now is a 100 millimeter lens.
Yours is
Like
so amazing.
I
which
love that.
which
So,
if done, you can use it like as an 85, honestly.
mhm.
The only thing I noticed in Michelle noticed this too when she was using my 100 millimeter, and maybe it's the RF, I don't know, because we all use Canon, but is the fact that in low light, it's not as easy. It's like struggles with the focus. So if it's like a reception or an event with like low light, the 100 millimeter is a little bit difficult compared to the 85. It is a lot lighter to carry around. and and honestly, like sometimes with a wedding, if it's during a ceremony, sometimes I can use a 100 millimeter instead of like I can like nail a bokeh in the back. But yeah, you do love that 100 millimeter, and that's like your thing.
I like the compressed background.
Yeah.
I like to do the portraits where I'm like far away and I'm taking like a normal like a full body portrait of somebody, but with 100 millimeter because it just
Mhm.
compresses the background and like makes it all like soft and creamy. It's just like I don't know. It has a really like artsy feel to it, and I kind
Yeah.
of like that. So
But then you can also get that detail shot in the next moment and get
exactly
real
because
close
it's
in.
macro. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Where with an 85, I got to step back further to get that in focus. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit different, but we all have
They are.
our favorite lens. What's your favorite lens, Michelle?
Oh, it depends on what I'm doing, but for like family, it's got to be a 35, which sucks because I love the compression of like the longer focal lengths. I love the art, but I like to be like, especially if I'm doing families, if I'm in their houses, like there's only so much room, right?
Yeah.
So I need a shorter focal length and I can get real close and I can get real on top of everybody, which I like. Like I like to like if everyone's doing like a group hug, I like to get in the whole group, but then like getting in
Yeah.
individual faces, which I don't feel comfortable doing with the longer focal length, but I then have to sacrifice that beautiful bokeh,
Mhm.
which the only way I try to kind of compensate that is like pulling the people away from the background a
Mm.
little bit more
Yeah.
and just bringing my f-stop down.
See, I would have guessed your favorite would be the 50 because that was something you were doing because you do a lot of school portraits with the 50, right?
So the 50, so the school portraits, I always do the 50. I
Yeah.
always do the 50. I've got the 24 to 70, which I do events for, and then like if the event has like a lot of lights, I'll break out my 16 to 35 because like
Mm.
the 16, the
That's
real
like
wide,
your event photography, like
yeah,
that is your look, like the 16 to 35. Yeah. Ooh,
I also
that
like
yeah,
is
the 16 to 35, but
mhm.
me
for
too.
years, my very favorite lens was a 50 millimeter. Only in the last like year and a half has the 100 millimeter kicked it out of the lead. But I think that like if I don't have a good 50 millimeter at the moment. I just have like my 16 to 35 and my 100 millimeter that I pretty much shoot with for pretty much everything because it gives me like a good variety of like looks. But I think the next lens I really want to buy is a 50 millimeter because it's just like my absolute favorite lens, like it always has been, because I think it's so close to how your eye is actually seeing things. And if
Mhm.
you have enough space to like make it work for wide shots and stuff, it just gives you like just a really beautiful balance between like crisp outlines and like being able to see everything, but also having like a nice enough background that's like soft enough that it's no longer
Yeah.
distracting or like too in focus to be considered like classic portraiture. So I kind of like the 50 is a good middle lens for me.
See, and
I
you all know me and my
85.
85. That is like the lens I am known for. But the one that stays on my camera for like an entire wedding day is my 28 to 70. Like, I'm pretty sure all like a majority of my images. And honestly, like I can get up to that 70, pull my aperture down
Yeah.
and like get that creamy background. But if I want it to be a little extra, I got my 85. Like that's where I'm like, let me give this a little something extra for sure.
Mhm.
I
Well,
like,
and
I just want everything to pop off the background, you know?
I need a better 85 because I've got the 70 to 200, but it's so heavy. It's very hard for me to
Mhm.
keep it still, like to be able to hold it, and
That's the
especially for
28 to
events.
70. That thing's a beast for Canon in the RF
Isn't it
series.
crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So
very heavy.
so I
Yep.
need I need a more longer focal length for events. I think it would just kind of like finish off my box of goodies, but they're
I
heavy
love
and
it.
I just
Yeah.
can't keep them. Like I can keep a steady hand, but when you've got that longer focal length and all that
Yeah.
weight on the front, it's so hard.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Well, let's talk about trends because I feel like this is something we text about all the time.
Mhm.
And I think it's just hard for us because we've been doing all of us have been doing this for a while. And so
We all come from different
we
backgrounds.
know I feel like trends just give us like it's like the nails on the chalkboard for some of it because of the fact that we have been through the trend phase and we are just like, you know what? They they're going to regret that later. But,
Mhm.
you know, we all have to try something. So,
Yeah.
anyway, some of the trends, I'm just going to name off some of mine that like some of them are from weddings, some of them are not. But the first one where I see all the time and I see it in stories and things is the best man first look in a wedding dress. I'm just like, I don't know. It just drives me nuts
I
anymore. I'm
forgot
like,
about
why
that.
are you wasting your time on a wedding day and your first look time and time together to just do
Wait,
something funny that everyone's done? Do you know what we're talking about, Michelle?
no, because I obviously don't
Okay, so
watch
it's like on a
reels.
wedding day, like the groom thinks that he's doing a first look with his bride or, you know, this is mostly when it's like opposite gender weddings.
Okay,
But and then the best man is actually putting on not the bride's wedding dress, but
a
a
different
wedding
one.
dress.
Okay,
And he's the one he turns around and sees, not his bride,
okay,
as like a joke.
okay.
And it's just like it's just such a waste of time, like just for a funny, you know, I don't know. It's got to be a certain kind of couple, maybe,
I
but
was
the
gonna say,
fact
I
that
think it
they're
depends on the type of person that's doing it
yeah,
because I've had it done where it's just like the bride really wanted the groom to do it, but he was like not the groom didn't know, but like it clearly wasn't like something he really thought was funny. And so like the reaction was really like stiff and not funny at all. And so
mhm,
like that is one like that's maybe not the best fit for them, but then I've had some where the groom and his best man are like besties for their entire lives and the best man just looks so ridiculous that when the groom turns around he like wheeze laughed and like fell forward because he could not keep it together and it was
yeah,
hilarious. But like again, you know, it just has to be the right kind of person for something like that to work. But I think that's can be said like that kind of concept can be applied to like all of the trends. Like it has to be the right moment, the right people, and like the your intention, Michelle, has to really be there. Like, why are you doing
yeah,
this thing?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's a
mhm,
trend, like and I think trend we always kind of think of as a dirty word because we're like, "Ugh, we just don't want to just do the same thing as everybody else. But like I think that if you don't sometimes offer that as like or consider it as like an option for your photography, you're missing out on like learning something new if that's
yep,
like where it leads you, or you're also potentially like not giving your couple something great just because you're against trying something that you maybe don't think is like the most, I don't know, the most like appropriate type of photography or whatever.
yeah,
So
that's a
the
good
one that
point.
really gets me, and I maybe jumping the gun mentioning it, but it's like the blurry photo trend. Um,
Oh, we've all talked about that, the
yeah,
3 of us. Yeah,
because like it is one of those things where it's like I get like why it's for like really high end professional photographers, like for example like the photographer that did like I can't remember which celebrity wedding he did, but I ended up looking at his Instagram and it was like he has like millions of followers and his photos are all like for the most part crisp and clear and like really well done. But then he'll have like a moment where like the sun is super hazy and the couple's like holding hands and running together onto the beach like towards the sunset and it's blurry. And like that makes sense to me because it's like that's how that
It's
moment
movement.
feels.
It's
It's
movement.
warm. It's like a happy, like soft memory. Like they're
Yeah.
moving. So you're getting motion blur. Like that makes sense to me. But when a couple's just standing somewhere posing and like he's kissing her cheek and the photo's blurry and like you edit it and send it, what are you doing? Like what's your intention behind that? That's not giving you the same like personality,
Yeah.
reasoning, intention as the photo of the people on the beach, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Like, I think like if there's no intention or if it doesn't add to the photo, then it's really just either hiding something, which is either a lack of knowledge or a lack of knowing what to do, or it's just there for the sake of being there because it's trendy.
Or they're just
I
throwing it
remember,
in and it's like a miss shot, you
Yeah.
know?
yes. And I
Like,
like I took
dang, I'll just
one,
add this in.
right? Like, oh, it's trendy and this is what people want. I'm just gonna like go like
Mhm.
this and then call it a day. Like, and there was one, like there's a photo I took. We were on Lake Michigan with my kids and my husband and my sister-in-law, and I took a nap and I woke up and we were just it was just haze. It was just complete haze and
That's
fog.
terrifying.
It was really terrifying. I literally thought this is how we're dying. Like this is where we're gonna die. Like I'm like, it's the end of the world. I fell asleep, it was sunny. I wake up and I can't see a foot in front of me. And like and anyone who was on the beach that day could tell you because it just rolled in on Lake Michigan. It was there for like 3 hours, of course, when we were on the water and going 5 miles an hour. But like I took this picture. It was my sis. It was all like blue, like the haze and the fog. And my sister-in-law had on a yellow, like brimmed hat. And I
Mm.
I threw my camera in
Oh,
manual
I've
and I
seen
made
this
it
one.
blurry. You saw
Mhm.
that one, right?
Mhm.
And there was other compositional things, but I'm like, for me, this adds to one the fog, the me waking up and not knowing what's going on. It gave like a dreamlike state, which was exactly what we were in. Like we all of us adults were like, this is weird. We have never like I'm like, are we gonna pull up on shore and there just be zombies everywhere? Or like it just felt like the end of the world. So little dramatic.
Oh.
Pirates of the
Um,
Caribbean style.
yeah, yes, very much. And so for something like that, or like let's say weddings, right? Like I did an event and there was all these different color lights and everyone was dancing. And I threw it on manual and I kind of blurred it a little and I waited for like you could see the silhouette of a person and then you could see the silhouette of that person in the lights on the ground. So you could tell it was a dance floor. There was all these different color lights. And for a wedding, like for me, I find that to be appropriate, right? Like it's the craziness of like the late night party, right? And the
Yeah.
lights and the drinks are flowing and everyone's having a blast and we're celebrating. And it's just this big blur because the day does go by fast, right? So intention. Does it
Yeah.
add?
That's
Does it
Michelle.
tell a
That's she's,
story?
like, got a story with all of I'm just like, "I thought that was cool." Like, oh, and I think that goes into, like, your art degree, you know? Like, it's just, like,
Oh, we
how
talk.
you're
Yeah.
pushed, you know? I don't have an art degree, I just am a creative.
No, but
So,
we talked about the like how you had to have a reason to do everything. Like you would
yeah.
literally, we'd literally come in. I was a graphic design major and a photographer and took photography classes and you had to come in and whether your class was 5 other students or 15 other students, you all put your stuff up on the board and everyone looked at it including the teacher and sometimes more than one, and then did constructive criticism. We'd say,
Yeah.
hey, we like this but do this. So you had to have, why did you do this, you got asked all the time. You
Mhm.
There had to be a reason because if not you would just get eaten alive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So which I'm sure
Okay.
Kelly, I think being in,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I took one photography class in college um because I mean obviously in like film and video you get a lot of like critique, but it's very different when you're literally like telling a story with like dialogue and words. So like a lot of the focus ends up being on like the story rather than just the like imagery. So when
Mm,
you're in photography and you're doing just an image, like I thought it would build my like ability to tell a story within film without words if I was really good at the like, okay, what is the intention behind this thing that I'm taking a photo of?
right.
And yeah, I remember that one class like where you put up like this gallery of images that you took and you have to like defend why you put that image on a piece of paper. Like, what were you thinking?
Terrifying.
Why did you take that photo? And like, I think that was when I realized that I was like, oh, like I was getting like it was film, so it was actual film, and I wasn't doing like the dark room, but I was paying to get them developed. And I was like, okay, so I actually have to like pay attention to why I'm taking this photo because it's literally one costing me money every time I take a photo because I have to get it developed, and two, like what is going to be said when somebody sees this? Like, are they going to be like, okay, so you took a picture looking up into a tree. What does that do for anyone? What are you saying with this? You know what I mean? And so it really made me think more of like, okay, what am I saying before I click this shutter? Like, how every shutter click is a journal entry. And what is this journal entry telling somebody? So I kind of try and think about that too, like whether it's applying it to trends or just
Mhm.
photos in general. I mean, literally, weddings sometimes are just like a crazy ball of like
I was just
energy and
thinking, maybe
excitement.
I need to start doing that, Kelly, so I'm not taking 5,000.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just have to. Like, I mean, weddings are just like that. Events too,
Yeah.
I'm sure, are like
Mhm,
in a similar fashion. Like, you just have to point and click, kind of like.
mhm,
And the fact is that like you have experience using like the best lighting, the best exposure, like your manual settings, so you know how to do that quickly. But like, you're not necessarily really paying attention to all of the content, and you're definitely just like collecting so that you can pare it down later because that's just the nature of events. Things go
mhm.
quickly, but if you have time, like the thinking about the point of why you're doing something, whether it's a trend or not, is really, I think, very valuable and important.
And I think with all that being said, especially with weddings and events, there's going to be times you miss something, right? There's like
Mhm.
that moment and you're like,
Mhm.
dang it, that would have been a great moment. And I think as professionals, we have to accept that and learn from like learn like, okay, we're not going to catch every. I remember the first time I like didn't catch something, I was so upset. And then I was like, okay, but like it has to go on. Like I have to like keep going because
Mhm.
there's more. And no one noticed that that one little moment was
Yeah.
not in there, unless it's obviously like the first kiss or something. That's a whole different
Yeah.
thing. But like overall, like most of the time, when you're on the fly like that.
There's a generational thing to that too because it's funny because I find like the whole boomer generation. Like I was doing a wedding the other day and my assistant goes, literally someone came up to me and was like, "Did you get that? Did you get that?" And it was funny because it was literally people in the photo booth having their photo taken and they were asking her, "Did you catch that? Did you catch that with your camera?" She's like, she like came back to tell me, she's like, they wanted to know if I captured someone taking a picture of themselves. She's like, it's
Oh my
already
god, I
being
totally do
captured.
that
It
though.
was so funny. Like, I don't know.
But I
I have
take
a
pictures of people taking pictures of themselves.
with selfies or like, yeah, I do those too. But I have a reel on my Instagram. Well, my Instagram that I can no longer get into. I have
Dun,
a
dun,
reel on my
dun.
Instagram about that where like somebody walks up to you at a wedding and they're like, "Did you get the shot?" And you're like, "It's taking the photography gods to hold me back," because it's like that is a question that I used to get a lot. Is like, "Why aren't you taking a photo of that?" Well, Bob, I have 17 photos of that. You just didn't see me taking those photos, but I'll go take
Yeah.
another.
Yep. It happens all the time. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
Well,
what
let's
other
kind of
trends?
talk about like the whole digital stuff. Let's talk about including digital images or not including digital images. This was Michelle's point she wanted to talk about. And we go back and forth on it all the time. And especially like for me, it's for senior photos because it's an investment of time. It's my time. I have to make money. And I hate that because for me, like I want the choices, but do we need all the choices? You know, like do we need all those moments or should we live them? I don't know. It's just yeah.
I have a question to start this conversation off. And I think that this will highlight the difference in our perspectives about this. Um, did you guys ever have family photos taken when you were growing up? Like, do you
We
have photos of your
Couple
family?
times, a couple times.
There are an awful lot of pictures of me and my brothers because my mom took us every 6 months or year to get our pictures
Mm.
taken. But I think there's like two full on family, like professional photos of the entire family.
So for me, a lot of this stems from my grandmother, and this is where my love for photography comes from, is she valued photos so much. So we would get like our large family photos and then we get our individuals, but literally when I graduated high school, she gave me like my mom had nothing. Like she didn't take pictures very often. She might have taken a few, but my grandma is the one who captured my life. Like everything I was given other than what I took with like a point and shoot throughout like high school, she gave me in a book, like, you know, those like peel the clear back and it's like stuck to this like, I don't know, sticky paper that you
I
put your
know, they're
photos on.
awesome.
That was like all of my photos were from that, other than like my grandpa on my mom's side, he was like the picture taker of the family. I had a couple there, but literally that's like that's my photos of my life is from that. So that's kind of where I come from. How about you, Kelly?
I have, I think there's one photo that exists of my sister, me, my dad, and my mom together. My
Wow.
parents are now divorced, but we only have one photo of us together, I think, from my entire childhood.
Like,
And
are we talking professional or are we talking family?
we were
Like point and
out on
shoot.
a vacation, and somebody took
Oh,
a disposable camera photo of us.
okay.
Um,
I thought you were asking professional.
Yeah,
Like,
either way, but that's the
okay.
only photo I have. I have no professional photos of us ever. Like, we never
Maybe
had
a
any,
full
and
portrait,
none
would
of
that
my
help?
family ever did either. Like, the only thing that came close to that was my aunt and her daughters had some of those glamour shots done,
Yeah.
Yes.
back in the day.
Yes.
Those
Did
are
you
the
get those
only
done,
professional.
Michelle?
Yeah. Like,
My mom wouldn't let me.
they didn't even do, my family didn't even do photos at weddings. Nobody had a photographer. So,
Wow.
yeah, really weird, right? So like I have no photos of my grandma past the first year of my life. Like there are none
Mm,
that exist. So I can't like show somebody what she looked like because it was before
wow.
she passed away before like cell phone cameras were like super good or
Mhm.
popular. So I don't have any of her like in my high school and college years. And then I just like don't have any prior to that. So for me, when I'm like giving a gallery, I almost always give as many digitals as I have edited. My exception would be like
Makes sense.
a mini session or, something that I have like maybe like some headshots where I've pre-established you're getting 4 shots or you're getting 15 or whatever it is. And that usually coincide with like the amount of time I want to spend editing that particular session, especially if all the like things are similar, like a headshot session. At least the ones that I do because I'm not Michelle, because Michelle does the really like, portraits that are great. Um, but yeah, like I deliver digitals because it's something that really like I know that from my family, like and I know you're not your own ideal client, but for my family, we would have never had the money to do prints.
Mm,
And I think that like I guess my just like behind the scenes kind of thought is that like if they're paying me for something and like it's already kind of hard for them to pay me because I come from maybe not like the wealthiest area and so I still get a lot of clients from like my hometown and stuff. I want them to like still get great photos that they can look at for years and maybe like this is the only professional photo that was done in their family for like, a generation